Hello, friends! Welcome back to Historically Inaccurate, the series where we give you the actual factual history behind phrases before letting you in on where they really came from. Today's phrase is the cat's pajamas.
The phrase the cat's pajamas means a highly admired or exceptionally excellent person or thing. But why cats and not dogs? And why pajamas and not rompers?
There are two accepted answers as to where the cat's pajamas started. The first and less popular origin story dates back to the 1800s with an English tailor by the name of E.B. Katz. Katz specialized in crafting sleepwear from the finest silk for royalty and members of the upper class society. His most notable client was King George III of Great Britain and Ireland. Thus, having cat's pajamas meant having the best of the best. Beyond this, there's not much information about Mr. E.B. Katz or his pajamas.
To discover the second and far more widely accepted origin story, we need to jump forward to about the 1920s, a time characterized by short hair, jazz music, Art Deco design, and bootleg liquor. It was widely accepted that this phrase came to light in the early 1920s thanks to a Mr. Thomas Drogan, a popular American journalist and cartoonist. Even if Thomas Drogan didn't ring a bell, many of his phrases might, including, "Yes, we have no bananas," which was turned into a popular song that was later covered by Marvin Suggs on The Muppet Show, "Hard-boiled," toughened man, and "For crying out loud." Dorgan's meaning of the cat's pajamas uses the word cat to describe the flappers of the time and pajamas to mean the best, highly sought out, and desirable.
In today's world, we don't associate pajamas with being the best and highly sought after or desirable. So why did Drogan? During our brief stop in the 1800s, we saw that the wealthy were seeking after pajamas, but most people were sticking to long nightgowns. Jump forward to the 1920s, and pajamas as we know them were just starting to become a fashion trend that was accessible and affordable to the general population. Many people were replacing their night dresses or gowns with two-piece ensembles, featuring soft, jacket-style, long-sleeved shirts and wide-legged pants. While men's pajamas were often cotton or flannel, women's pajamas were brightly printed silk or rayon, decorated or trimmed with lace or ribbon. It was considered risque for a woman to opt for these pajamas over a nightgown. So, if you saw a flapper in her pajamas, which was apparently noteworthy enough to land a New York Times article, you were seeing the cat's pajamas.
The cat's pajamas can be found in contemporary literary works, including Sinclair Lewis's novel Martin Arrowsmith, where the character of Cliff states, "Honestly, Lady Arrowsmith, this kid used to think that Pa Gottlieb was the cat's pajamas, begging your pardon for this languageness." And in the September 4th, 1930 edition of the Times Literary Supplement newspaper, we were the absolute and utter cat's pajamas.
But enough about the 1920s. Here's where the cat's pajamas really came from.
Two musical households, both alike in dignity, in the less than fair back alley of the Big Crabapple, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where a civil note makes civil pause unclean. Shakespeare hath spoken. It all began in the Big Crabapple, in a not-so-quiet back alley. You see, this alleyway was home to not one, but two perfectly acceptable establishments. On one side of the litter-ridden street, there was the Cat's Pajamas, an up-and-swinging jazz club where all the cool cats and kittens go to catch a groove and maybe a meow-teeny or two. Old Gus, the owner of the Cat's Pajamas, is best known for his salty personality, and he opened up his club at the peak of his musical career as the lead saxophone player for the biggest jazz quartet in the Big Crabapple, the Meow or Nevers.
On the other side, the most respectable establishment of the Holy Light University of Angelic Gregorian Hymns, or for short, run by the illustrious Mother Meowry, an old saint of a cat who holds a grudge that has lasted beyond her previous 8 lives. Focuses on teaching young wayward kittens the soul-healing powers of Gregorian Chants, and the expulsion of hairballs when trying to pronounce the name. Mother Meowry rules her school with iron claws. All the young kittens know to duck when they hear her call out, "Stop giving me catitude!" as they know a well-aimed yarn ball is speeding their way. Above all, the kittens know to stay far away from the cat's pajamas and all things jazz.
Mother Meowry and old Gus have been less than amused with each other for about as long as either of them can remember. You see, several lives ago, Gus was accepted into the most reputable music academy in all of the Big Crabapple, the Jeweled Yard. This establishment was the perfect place to hone one's yowls atop the finest fence in the city, and although both Meowry and Gus were exceptional jazz musicians, only Gus was accepted into the program. Their falling out was nothing short of a catastrophe, leaving a broken-hearted Meowry to swear off jazz for the rest of her lives and slandering Gus as a good-for-nothing charlatan. And that was until one fateful night.
The night began like any other night, raining cats and dogs while music filled the streets. The cat's pajamas was hopping with music, dance, and laughter, while stood in reverent silence, save for Mother Meowry throwing a yarn ball at little Miss Meowtha Swanson, who had been caught taking a cat nap instead of categorizing the choir's music selection for the upcoming cantata. Mother Meowry's aim wasn't what it usually is, and the yarn ball bounced out the front doors toward the purring jazz club. Seeing as Mother Meowry was well into her ninth life and not a fan of running, she sent Meowtha to retrieve the yarn ball from the stoop of the devil, as she put it.
Meowtha scuttered across the street. There was something magical about the music floating through the air under the colorful streetlights. She poked her head through the door of the cat's pajamas, and what a sight it was to behold for the young Catholic. Dancing at every turn, everyone was laughing and singing, and there was a melody like nothing she had ever heard in the chants came from center stage. After retrieving the ball of yarn, she paused, Mother Meowry's words echoing through her mind. Curiosity killed the cat. But how could something this fun be so bad? Surely, it couldn't hurt to get a closer look at the band playing tonight before returning home.
Meowtha wandered further into the club, towards the stage where the Forget-Me-Nots were playing. Their lead singer, Hercules McAllister, was a dashingly dapper cat with an enticing voice. Fate played the heartstrings as Hercules locked eyes with Meowtha. He knew that she was the one for him. As for Meowtha, well, she knew she couldn't just leave. After all, Mother Meowry taught her that it is always polite to say thank you to someone who has given you a gift, and the band had certainly shared their gift of music with her. To leave now would be criminal, even if it meant risking another round of yarn ball dodgeball.
The Forget-Me-Nots finished up their set, and the crowd cheered as they began clearing their equipment from the stage. Swaths of adoring fans rushed toward the band, and Meowtha was caught up in the flurry. Spun from her paws, she lost her balance and fell, but instead of landing on the jazz club floor, she instead found herself nose to nose with the lead singer whom she had admired from afar. Pardon me, miss, but I thought cats were supposed to land on their feet. Hercules spun Meowtha back upright. Embarrassed, Meowtha shyly replied, Apologies, sir, I'm not very catletic. I'm Meowtha. Hercules. And it was as though the stars aligned in that very moment. Both knew that they would forever love each other, and I would like to take a pause here for a moment to just gross and all the lovey-dovey. This is okay. Good, got it out of our system. Okay, palate cleanser, good, all right. And now back to that. Meowtha, would you do the absolute pleasure of accompanying me out this evening?
Meowtha stepped away, shaking her head. I'm sorry, sir. I'm afraid I need to get back to the Holy Light University of Angelic Gregorian Hymns, or for short. Mother Meowry will be worried. Thank you for your music. Without waiting for a reply, Meowtha hurried back through the door and across the street where Mother Meowry was waiting at the door. Handing the yarn ball back, Meowtha rounded the corner to her room and looked out her window demurely at Hercules. Hercules walked as close as the school gate to see his love. Hercules, Hercules, wherefore art thou, Hercules? Hercules came a few steps closer, not sure if he heard Meowtha right, and if he had, he was confused as to why she was speaking in Old English style. What? Oh, oh, you, Hercules, where are you?
Hercules, still confused as to why Meowtha is repeatedly calling out to him even though he was merely a few steps in front of her. Don't chase strange girls at the club, kids. begins to serenade Meowtha with a love song that he wrote himself, Feline Good. The sweet yells of a jazz tune filled the air, and Meowtha was captivated by his song. Sound, however, carries very well in a rickety old school run by Catholic mothers who have sworn jazz out of thetheir existence. Mother Meowie's ears perked up at the notes in the distance. Oh no. Not in my 9th life. Meowry armed herself with the largest, woolliest ball of yarn in her arsenal and followed the music to the delinquent's room. Her whiskers twitched and her lips snarled. Well, she began as she saw Hercules serenading Meowtha from her windowsill. Is it someone a smitten kitten? Mother Meowry may be old, but she was still spry enough to launch a ball of yarn forceful enough to clock Hercules clean out of that window.
Hercules took a moment on the ground. Did he really just get clocked out of window by a nun? I thought cats always land on their feet, Meowtha jokingly called from the window. At a speed that should be illegal for elderly cats on their night life, Mother Meowry grabbed the 2 love-struck kittens by the scruff and marched across the street with the determination of a cat in a creamery. She burst through the doors with a war cry. Ferguson! Get your tail in here and answer for these hooligans, or I'll have this place shut down for illegal catnip distribution. Old Gus meandered out from the back of the club. He almost chuckled to see the old nun huffing and puffing while holding on to 2 young and slightly embarrassed kittens. Gus's eyes sparkled. Now, Meowry, you know they never proved that. To what do I owe the pleasure of hearing that cat scratching you like to call your voice? Did you lose your favorite yarn ball on my roof again? That'd be the 4th time this week. You know, I think you do that just to have an excuse to come and see me.
Meowry bit her tongue. There were some words coming to mind that the good father would not approve of. From my perspective, Ferguson, I only lose my yarn balls when one of those dolts you call performers disturb one of my students at and this is personal, you low down, no good. Easy there, Meowry. I was only kitten. The 2 continued bickering back and forth about some kind of wet food incident that Hercules and Meowtha couldn't quite make out, but they did notice something peculiar. Hang on, were old Gus and Mother Meowry friends? No, Meowtha continued the thought. They were in love. Meowry and Gus continued screeching at each other, something about jazz being inferior to Gregorian chants from what the kittens could tell. Hercules, if we could reunite them, then maybe this dumb feud would be over, and then there would be nothing to stop us from being together. Hercules puzzled for a moment. He then climbed on top of the nearest table and spoke quietly. I know just what to do.
Hercules snapped his paw. The lights went out and a spotlight illuminated the stage. The band behind him began to play a soft, alluring melody. The cats gathered around as a microphone slowly lowered from the ceiling. Hercules took a deep breath and... Due to budget cuts, the heart-wrenching musical number about love and forgiveness, complete with intricate tumbling and aerial work, has been cut out. It was really cool looking in rehearsal, and you would have totally loved it. Probably would have even won a Tony Award if Broadway would have picked it up, but alas, Cats is already a musical. And now back to our story. Gus wiped a tear from his eye. That was the most beautiful and complicated musical number I've ever seen. The harmonies, the acrobatics, and the pyrotechnics, I didn't even know we had a shark tank under our stage. Meowry, I love you, you old cat! Meowry huffed, trying to appear unimpressed. It was okay. And I guess you're okay too, Ferguson.
After the expertly constructed and very persuasive musical number, the Holy Light University of Angelic Gregorian Hymns, or for short, combined with the cat's pajamas, which kept its name since it was entirely less hairball-inducing, and it went down in history as the perfect fit for young talented singers to come learn more about their craft, and it even rivaled that of the Jeweled Yard. Old Gus and Meowry were able to forgive each other for the past and look forward to the reunion tour of their band, the Meower Later Jazz Quartet, with its 2 newest members, Hercules and Meowtha. Together they toured jazz clubs all around the Big Crabapple and made beautiful music together for the rest of their lives. The end.
And that concludes the real history behind the phrase, the cat's pajamas. Thank you for joining us on this informative adventure.
If you want to learn more about the history and historically inaccurate history of everyday phrases, give this video a swingin' jazz tune in the form of a like and subscribe to the Grand Misadventure for more nonsense.
And remember, the Misadventurer's Guide, chapter 5367, section F, page 52, states, "The cat's pajamas has the best musical numbers, and it's always a party." Until next time, friends.
Have a grand rest of your day.
Bye!